I should have seen it coming. Really, I should have. 25 years of being Sophie's younger sister had taught me that nothing was ever truly mine. Not the spotlight, not the praise, not even basic human decency at my own wedding reception. But standing there at the microphone, champagne glass raised, watching her smirk spread across her face like oil on water, I realized I'd underestimated just how far she'd go. The reception hall glittered around us, fairy lights strung across exposed beams, centerpieces of white roses and eucalyptus, 200 guests in their finest attire. Ben sat at the head table, his tie slightly crooked in that endearing way of his, watching me with those soft brown eyes that had convinced me to invite my family in the first place. Sweet, trusting Ben. He'd actually believed my mother when she promised to behave herself today. I was midway through thanking everyone for coming, my voice steady despite the champagne buzz and the surreal awareness that I was actually married now, when Sophie's chair scraped back. The sound cut through my words like nails on a chalkboard. She stood, wobbling slightly in her two tall heels, the bridesmaid dress I'd carefully chosen for her, a tasteful lavender that complemented her skin tone, somehow looking cheap on her frame. Liam rose beside her, his hand immediately finding the small of her back in that possessive way that had always made my skin crawl. 6'2" of designer suit and entitled attitude, with a jawline sharp enough to cut glass and morals dull enough to bend for whoever held his leash. "Sorry to interrupt," Sophie announced. Not sorry at all. Her voice carried the particular nasality she deployed when she wanted maximum attention. "But I just can't hold this in any longer." The room fell silent. I gripped the microphone stand, my knuckles going white against the chrome. "Liam and I—" She paused for effect, her free hand fluttering to her chest. "We're engaged." The gasps rippled through the crowd. A few people started clapping, confused and caught in that awkward social space between politeness and incredulity. My mother shot up from her seat, practically vibrating with joy, her sequined mother of the bride dress catching the light like a disco ball. "Oh, sweetheart," Mom rushed over, pulling Sophie into an embrace that nearly knocked Liam sideways. "I'm so thrilled. When? How? Tell us everything." I stood frozen at the microphone, watching this scene unfold like a car crash in slow motion. Ben had half risen from his seat, his expression caught between confusion and anger. His best man, Derek, put a hand on his shoulder, holding him back. Sophie extracted herself from Mom's grip just enough to face the crowd again, her eyes finding mine with laser precision. "Well, the funny thing is," she giggled, high and brittle, "we're actually going to start our engagement off with a bang. We're leaving for a 2-week vacation to Bali tomorrow." My stomach dropped. Tomorrow. Tomorrow was when Ben and I were supposed to leave for our honeymoon. To Bali. To the resort I'd spent 6 months researching, the overwater bungalow I'd saved for by taking extra shifts at the airport, the spa packages and sunset cruises I'd booked with meticulous care. "How wonderful," I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. "And where are you staying?" Liam's smirk widened. He'd been waiting for this moment. "The Ananda Resort, overwater bungalows, private beach access. Really exclusive place. You probably haven't heard of it." "Oh, I'd heard of it. I'd booked it. Under my name, with my credit card. For my honeymoon." "That's quite a coincidence," I said slowly. "That's where Ben and I are going." Sophie's laugh could have stripped paint. "Not anymore, you're not. We checked with the resort. They can only accommodate one Collins party at a time. And since Liam called ahead to confirm our reservation—" She shrugged, the gesture somehow both innocent and vicious. "I guess they assumed you'd canceled." The room had gone dead quiet now. Even the catering staff had stopped moving, frozen mid-pour like statues in some twisted wedding tableau. Mom stepped forward, her hands clasped together in that pleading gesture she always used when she wanted me to roll over. "Emma, honey, you understand, don't you? Sophie's been through so much heartbreak. She deserves this chance at happiness. And you and Ben can go somewhere else, somewhere more appropriate for your budget." Something cold and sharp crystallized in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Just a pure, clear understanding that my mother had helped orchestrate this. The way Sophie kept glancing at her for approval, the way Mom had her speech ready, the way Liam looked like he'd been promised front row seats to my humiliation. "I see. I set down my champagne glass with careful precision. And how exactly did you get our reservation information? Sophie's smile never wavered. You left your confirmation email open on your laptop at Mom's house last week. Really, Emma, you should be more careful with your personal information. Ben was standing now, his chair knocked back, his face flushed with a fury I'd only seen once before, when a drunk driver had nearly hit us in a crosswalk. But I caught his eye and shook my head, just slightly. Not yet. Not here. I had a better idea. Well, I said, my voice carrying across the silent room with the calm I'd learned from 5 years of dealing with belligerent passengers at airport security. I guess congratulations are in order. Sophie, Liam, I hope you have a wonderful engagement. Really, I do. Sophie's expression flickered, just for a second, with uncertainty. She'd expected screaming, tears, a scene that would let her play the victim of my jealousy. My calm was throwing her off script. That's really mature of you, Emma, Mom said, her tone dripping with the kind of condescension that implied maturity had never been my strong suit. I smiled, picking up my champagne glass again. Of course, family is family, right? No matter what they do to you, you're supposed to just take it. I raised my glass. To Sophie and Liam, may they get exactly what they deserve. The toast was awkward, scattered. Ben was staring at me like I'd grown a second head, but I just drank my champagne, let Sophie bask in her moment of glory, and started calculating. Because here's what my family didn't know. I worked airport security, international terminal. And I'd seen this particular scam before. People using other people's reservation confirmations to try to travel. It never ended well. The reception limped along after that. Sophie held court in one corner, showing off the ring Liam had apparently bought her. Nothing special. Probably cubic zirconia from the way it caught the light. Mom orbited around her like a moon around Jupiter, completely gravitationally bound to her favorite daughter's drama. Ben found me at the dessert table, where I was methodically destroying a slice of wedding cake with my fork. Emma. His voice was low, furious. What the hell was that? We can't just let them. We're not, I interrupted, meeting his eyes. Trust me, we're not letting them do anything. He studied my face, and slowly his expression shifted from anger to something like awe. You have a plan. I have a plan. Is it legal? I smiled. Completely. The drive to the airport was quiet. Ben kept glancing at me, probably wondering if I'd cracked under the pressure of my family's latest betrayal. I just stared out the window, watching the suburbs give way to industrial parks, running through my mental checklist. Our bags were in the trunk, packed weeks ago, ready for the honeymoon I'd planned down to the hour. The reservation confirmation was still in my email, still under my name, and I'd made one additional call last night after the reception finally ended and we'd escaped to our hotel room. A call to my supervisor at the airport, just a friendly heads up that there might be an issue with some fraudulent travel documents today. The kind of issue that would require special attention at the security checkpoint. We arrived at the international terminal 3 hours before our flight, which was excessive, but I wanted to be there. I wanted to see it happen. The terminal buzzed with the usual chaos, families hauling oversized suitcases, business travelers with their efficient carry-ons and annoyed expressions, the eternal smell of Cinnabon and jet fuel. I led Ben through the crowd with the ease of someone who knew every corner of this place, every security camera, every shortcut. Where are we going? Ben asked, nearly jogging to keep up. To say goodbye to my honeymoon tickets, and to some people who thought they could steal from me. I spotted them before they spotted me. Hard to miss, really. Sophie in head-to-toe designer athleisure that probably cost more than my wedding dress. Mom in a leopard print travel outfit that was giving me secondhand embarrassment. And Liam hauling 3 massive suitcases like they were planning to relocate to Bali permanently. They were at the check-in counter, Sophie's voice rising in that particular whine she deployed when she wasn't getting her way fast enough. I don't understand the problem, she was saying to the patient-looking airline employee. The reservation is right here. Collins party, 2 passengers, first class to Denpasar. The employee, whose name tag read Maria, was typing with the measured calm of someone who dealt with entitled passengers every day. Yes, ma'am, I see the reservation. But the name on the booking is Emma Collins, not Sophie Collins. and the credit card used for purchase would need to be present for verification. My credit card. Still in my wallet, right next to my security badge. Sophie's face was turning an impressive shade of red. That's ridiculous. It's the same last name. We're sisters. I understand, ma'am, but airline policy. Let me talk to your manager. Maria's expression didn't change, but I'd worked customer service long enough to recognize the internal eye roll. Of course. Please wait here. That's when Liam spotted me. His eyes widened, then narrowed into slits of pure hatred. You, he spat, crossing the distance between us in 3 long strides. What the hell are you doing here? I smiled up at him, all innocence. Same thing as you. Going on my honeymoon. This is our trip, Sophie shrieked, abandoning the counter to storm over. You said you understood. You said we could have it. Actually, I corrected gently. I said I hoped you'd get what you deserve. I never said you could have my reservation. Mom appeared at Sophie's elbow, her face twisted with indignation. Emma Louise Collins, you stop this right now. Your sister deserves a nice vacation. You're being selfish and petty. Petty? I tasted the word. That's interesting, coming from someone who helped her daughter commit fraud. Fraud? Liam's laugh was ugly. You're delusional. This is a family matter, not a legal issue. Actually, said a new voice, it's both. My supervisor, Carlos, appeared from the security office, his expression professionally neutral. He'd worked airport security for 20 years, had 2 daughters of his own, and had heard my entire wedding disaster story last night with increasing disbelief and anger. Good morning, Emma, he said. These the passengers you called about? That's them. Sophie's eyes darted between us, uncertainty creeping into her expression for the first time. Called about? What are you talking about? Carlos pulled out his tablet, pulling up what I knew was a report I'd filed last night. We received information that there might be an attempt to use fraudulent travel documents at this terminal today. Specifically, someone attempting to travel using a reservation that doesn't belong to them, without the cardholder's permission. This is insane, Liam snarled. You can't do this. We have rights. You do, I agreed. You have the right to book your own vacation, with your own money, under your own names. What you don't have is the right to steal mine. The color was draining from Sophie's face. We weren't stealing. We're family. You're supposed to share. Share. The word came out harder than I intended. Let me tell you about sharing, Sophie. I shared my childhood with you. Every birthday party you ruined, every achievement you had to one-up. I shared my high school graduation when you announced you were pregnant, even though you weren't. I shared my college acceptance when you convinced Mom to give you my tuition money for your business venture that failed in 3 months. My voice was rising now, years of buried resentment bubbling up like a geyser. The crowd around us was starting to stare, phones coming out to record what was clearly becoming a scene. I've shared and shared and shared, I continued, and you've taken and taken and taken. But this? I gestured at the check-in counter, at their expensive luggage, at the whole pathetic scheme. This is theft. Not sharing. Theft. Mom grabbed my arm, her nails digging in through my jacket. How dare you speak to your sister like that? After everything we've done for you. I pulled free, stepping back. Ben moved closer, a solid presence at my back. Everything you've done for me? I laughed, sharp and bitter. You mean like showing up 2 hours late to my high school graduation because Sophie needed a manicure? Or telling me I wasn't pretty enough for a white dress at my own wedding? Or stealing my honeymoon? We didn't steal. You accessed my private email without permission, used my reservation confirmation to try to impersonate me with the airline, and planned to use tickets I paid for without my consent. That's identity fraud, reservation theft, and attempted wire fraud. I turned to Carlos. Right? He nodded grimly. We take this very seriously, especially international travel fraud. Liam's face had gone from red to purple. This is ridiculous. You think you can just, what? Have us arrested? We're not criminals. No, I said softly. You're just thieves who happen to be related to me. Sophie lunged for me then, actually lunged, her hands reaching for my hair in a move straight out of reality TV. But Carlos stepped between us with the smooth efficiency of someone who'd broken up 1,000 airport fights, and suddenly there were 2 more security officers flanking us. "Ma'am," Carlos said to Sophie, his voice carrying that particular tone of authority that meant business, "I'm going to need you to calm down. Physical assault on airport property is a federal offense." She froze, awareness finally dawning that this wasn't a family squabble she could cry her way out of. This was real. This had consequences. "The airline has declined to honor your travel request," Carlos continued, addressing all 3 of them now. "You're welcome to book your own flights at the counter, but you won't be using Emma Collins's reservation. If you attempt to board using her information again, you will be arrested for fraud." Mom's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. But we already told everyone we were going. Sophie posted about it on Instagram. How will this look?" "Like the consequences of your actions," Ben said quietly, speaking for the first time since we'd approached. "Maybe try that novel concept." The look of pure hatred Sophie shot him could have melted steel, but then her expression crumpled, tears springing to her eyes with practiced ease. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," she sobbed, turning to the small crowd that had gathered. "My own sister, on her wedding weekend. I just wanted to celebrate my engagement, and she's having me threatened with arrest." A few people in the crowd looked sympathetic, but more looked disgusted. At her, not at me, because even strangers could see through this performance. "Ma'am," one of the other security officers said, "if you don't have legitimate business at this terminal, I'll need to ask you to leave." Liam grabbed their suitcases, his jaw clenched so tight I could hear his teeth grinding. "This isn't over." "Oh," I said, pulling out my phone. "It really is. See, I also called the Ananda Resort last night. Explained the situation. They've been informed that if anyone shows up claiming to be part of the Collins party without the original card holder, that's me, they're to be turned away and the police notified." Sophie's sob cut off mid-breath. You, I protected what's mine. Novel concept for you, I know." Mom finally found her voice, shrill and desperate. "This is your family, Emma. How can you treat us like this?" I looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman who'd held me as a baby, who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd chosen her favorite daughter over fair treatment every single day of my life since Sophie was born. "You're not my family," I said, and the words came out surprisingly calm. "You're people I happen to be related to. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't sabotage each other's happiness. Family doesn't show up to someone's wedding just to make it about themselves." I pulled my security badge from my pocket, let it dangle from my fingers. "I'm going to show this badge to the TSA agent at security. Ben and I are going to board our flight, fly to our honeymoon, and enjoy the trip I planned and paid for. And you 3 are going to leave this airport and figure out how to explain to everyone why you're not actually going to Bali." Sophie made one last desperate grab for sympathy. "Please, Emmy, I'm your sister. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, we just thought Liam really wanted to do something special for our engagement and we couldn't afford." "Then you should have stayed home," I interrupted. "Or gone somewhere you could afford. Or, crazy idea, worked and saved and planned like I did. Like normal adults do." Liam's hand clamped down on Sophie's shoulder, steering her toward the exit. "This isn't over," he repeated, like it was a threat that still had teeth. "It is, though," I called after them. "It really, really is." Mom lingered, her face a mask of confusion and anger, like she couldn't quite process that her scapegoat daughter had finally grown a spine. "You'll regret this," she said finally. "Family is family, Emma. You'll come crawling back when you need us." I thought about that. Thought about all the times I'd already needed them and they hadn't been there. All the times I'd crawled back to try one more time to earn their love, their approval, their basic human decency. "No," I said. "I really won't." She left then, hurrying after Sophie and Liam with her ridiculous leopard print luggage bouncing behind her like a circus animal. The crowd dispersed slowly, the show over. Maria from the check-in counter caught my eye and gave me a subtle thumbs up. Carlos clapped me on the shoulder. "Good job standing up for yourself, kid," he said. "Enjoy Bali, you earned it." The security line moved quickly with my badge. TSA waved us through with friendly nods. Half of them knew me from my shifts, knew I was getting married this weekend, knew I'd been stressed about family drama. At the gate, waiting for our flight to board, Ben finally spoke. "Are you okay?" I considered the question. Was I okay? I just essentially cut off my mother and sister. I'd publicly humiliated them in an airport. I'd chosen myself over family harmony. "Yeah," I said, surprised to find it was true. "I really am." He kissed my temple, his arm around my shoulders. "I'm proud of you. That couldn't have been easy." It hadn't been. But it had been necessary, like lancing a wound that had been festering for 25 years. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophie. "You're a heartless bitch, and I hope you're happy." I blocked her number, then Mom's, then after a moment's consideration, Liam's too. Another text, this one from my best friend Jen, who'd been at the wedding. "OMG, just saw the video. You're my hero. Also, your sister is trending on TikTok and not in a good way." I didn't look up the video, didn't need to. Whatever happened next in the court of public opinion, I'd already won the fight that mattered, the one for my own self-respect. The gate agent called for first-class boarding, our honeymoon. Our trip. Not stolen, not compromised, not shared with people who didn't deserve it. As we walked down the jetway, my phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. "This is Liam. You made a big mistake. Sophie is devastated. You'll pay for this." I showed it to Ben. He frowned, but I just laughed. "Let him threaten," I said, deleting the message. "I work airport security. I know every regulation, every law, every consequence for the exact kind of fraud they tried to pull. If he wants to make this worse for himself, he's welcome to try." I blocked that number too. The plane lifted off 40 minutes later, climbing through clouds into brilliant sunshine. Ben ordered us champagne, the real celebration, the one that didn't involve my family's drama. "To us," he said, raising his plastic cup. "To us," I echoed. "And to honeymoons that stay exactly where they belong." We clinked cups. The champagne was mediocre. The seats were cramped despite being first class. And I could already feel the exhaustion of the last 24 hours settling into my bones. But I was free. Free of the obligation to sacrifice myself on the altar of Sophie's happiness. Free of my mother's conditional love. Free of the belief that family meant tolerating abuse. Somewhere back in that airport, 3 people were probably still raging, still plotting, still convinced they were the victims of my cruelty. Let them rage. Let them plot. I was 30,000 feet up and climbing, and they couldn't touch me anymore. My honeymoon was waiting. My husband was beside me. And my family, my real family, the one I was choosing to build with Ben, was just beginning. Until last Saturday, I'd thought my family's favoritism had limits. That somewhere, somehow, there'd be a line they wouldn't cross. A boundary of basic human decency. I'd been wrong. There were no limits when it came to Sophie. There never had been. But now there were limits when it came to me. Boundaries I'd drawn in permanent ink. And if that made me the villain in their story, so be it. I'd rather be the villain who went to Bali than the victim who stayed home.